So yeah, so we have created a similar platform which you can do a lot of pre-hospital assessment. Uh,
Mhm.
so you can do add their clinical information. You can also do their NIHSS assessment, right? And then eventually the radiology portion also comes into the platform itself, right? So it's the seamless integration that we have done.
It basically has streamlined. I think we were one of the few sites to go live in May with some other sites.
Mhm.
So this has streamlined everything. So basically, it's a very simple platform to use, simple tool which has joined NIH and other scores together.
Mhm.
So very simple to replicate, very simple to examine and do, and
Mhm.
essentially fastens up. So they have provided enough education, enough opportunities for training for staff at every level.
Mhm.
So from ambulance like pre-arrival, and then in the hospital, and then within the emergency departments, obviously we activate radiology and pharmacology and pharmacy and other services to
Mhm.
help us. So they've done a lot of things. So still a lot of work to do
Right.
around that. So this is where we are now. So when we get a patient, so ambulance is supposed to give us a call, heads up. So
Right.
when they reach an emergency department, so we do a quick assessment. First of all, are they stable enough? So somebody can be having they can be next to sort of, almost going to die. So critically
Correct.
very unwell. Then everything else goes on the side, and that takes priority to just stabilize them
Mhm.
clinically and make sure their airway breathing circulation and everything is good. If
Right.
they, for example, see somebody has got a bleed in the brain and they are not really talking on the GCSE 3, so
Mhm.
obviously it's a different story altogether. But
Correct.
okay, if this man comes to ED, so he's got a facial droop, he's got some subtle, slurring of speech,
Mhm.
and then so now what we do is obviously we will intimate the radiology if it's
Right.
before within working hours. So we'll tell them we've got a stroke call, and they know what
Mhm.
to do. So they will empty the scan table. We'll ring
Mhm.
pharmacy to bring. I mean, the drugs already there, and we've got a stroke package in the ED. So toolkit
Okay.
is there in the emergency department. So for blood pressure control medication, what we're going to use. So
Mhm.
there's no confusion. So so the standard protocol what we use, and a
Mhm.
standard number which we have in mind for the blood pressure. So no,
Right.
not based on individual preferences and individual things. And similarly for medication as well. So there's a whole thing, the whole package toolkit tells you everything what to do. And we
Mhm.
have been educating how to thrombolize. Nurses draw the drug and they give it if the
Okay.
pharmacist is not available.
Mhm.
So when we get there, so obviously one of our senior clinicians, say for example, if I'm on the floor, so I'll take the, obviously patient will come into the emergency department, and the ambulance gives us a very brief handover in a
Mhm.
very structured format. So and then we assess them within, just the whole idea is do the tool within 5 minutes.
Right.
So we tend to do that, but sometimes it can be hard to do that within 5 minutes. Ambulance can take 5 minutes to hand over, and then by the time you talk to patients, so sometimes they do ECG, they do blood pressure, they do simple numbers. So
Mhm.
say it's 5 to 10 minutes within, it is all done.
Okay.
Then we if they so it will give you the ASAP tool is acute assessment protocol,
Right.
acute stroke assessment protocol tool. Will
Mhm.
give you so when I when I put that information in. So this man was well. He was seen
Right.
like less than 4 hours away, less than 4.5 hours, very well, independent living, all the thing. It will give me a score, and
Mhm.
that can be based on the score. It will tell he's candidate for hyperacute stroke management.
Right.
And then there's certain set order of blood test and investigation which we order for
Mhm.
CT brain perfusion scan, CT angiogram, and other blood tests. The
Mhm.
set one order, which I will order or somebody else will order. And then I will pick a phone and talk to tele stroke neurologist.
Right.
So I'll tell him, hey, Ken, so I've got a 70-year-old man with fast positive. This is what's seen. I've done ASAP tool. So you
Mhm.
can copy that, post into electronic medical record actually. So the note will be there. So
Right.
Ken will then give me a ring. He knows the computer numbers in Griffith Based Hospital. There are only 3 computers which has program installed. He
Right.
will ask me, which computer you're on, and then we get a video link, a video call by
Mhm.
Skype actually.
Right. Right.
So in the meantime, I'll take usually the same computer. We call them computer on wheels. We call them cow. Obviously, we
Okay.
can't call them cow in India. Otherwise, Modi will kill me. so
Good to
so
know
we
your
take
opinions on that.
what's that?
Good to know your opinions on that. Probably we can discuss
Yeah.
about that later.
Yeah, no, that's just fine. It's just saying as a joke. So we can take that into the radiology department, and while they are scanning, so basically, patient goes on the table, they do CT brain. If there's a bleed there, massive bleed, we stop there. There's no
So
point of going
yeah,
further.
So a
Yeah.
couple of questions on just the
Yeah, sure,
radiology
sure.
part, right? So you start with a non-contrast CT and then you also do CT perfusion and CT angio together, or is it the
No,
call that you
so we
as per?
start with the non-con CT first. So if somebody has a, say, for example, so the different other scenario can happen. Somebody has, intracranial bleed, which is gone into, all part of the brain. So then we stop there. There's no point of doing perfusion scan or even CT. CT angio you can do, but no point of doing perfusion scan on that patient. Or if I discover, for example, a big tumor, so there's a space, we call them SOL, space occupying lesion. There's a massive tumor which was there, and patient now develops syndrome, so they can basically develop edema, and I discover something. In that case, they can do, contrast and move around tumor, but we will exit the stroke pathway at that point
Correct,
of time.
correct, correct.
So in that point of time, it doesn't really go into sort of beyond. So the neurologist on call telestroke, so he can tell me, oh, this is basically okay. Now this is got a massive bleed. It can be hypertensive bleed. They still hemorrhagic stroke, but they do not require acute thrombolysis.
Right,
So my consultation with them will end there because I don't want to waste their critical, clinical, valuable time.
right.
Because they can take another stroke phone call at the same time when I'm talking to them. So it's not their obligation to arrange, like neurosurgery consultation or shift them somewhere else, because that acute telestroke service is not for basically this purpose. Similarly, if I obviously from heart attack point of view, and if it's a different disease which they're discovering, they're not going to thrombolize. So interventional
Right.
cardiologists will say no, it's not. ECG is fine, it's normal, so I'm not interested. So look for other cause of chest pain. So we have not. So then we end there. So scenario two, so if they find there's nothing there, then they go with perfusion scan, and then they do an angiogram.
Right.
And now, if they say, oh, that's fine, you can see, the patient is having there's a mismatch on perfusion scan. So we bring them. We're going to thrombolize them. So we made the decision that he's 70-year-old, well man, good quality of life. So we bring him back to emergency department. So then we make a phone call. If the patient can talk, sometimes they can talk. So we involve them as the video camera there on the top of the computer. So which we basically we have a phone conversation with the family. If there's someone involved, if they often it's a very small place, they come to the hospital. If they're not on the phone, we can discuss with them regarding what exactly we're facing now and what exactly going to happen. So what are the pros and cons of doing this, and if you don't do this, what might happen? And essentially then we go from there. If the patient can talk to you, they can participate, they can give a consent. It's very important here. So consent everything you do, explain them what consequences are going to be
Right.
if we take this risk. So what are the bleeding risks, what kind of and we also look at the contraindications. So neurologist will basically, with me, family and patient, we'll all go through everything together again within a couple of minutes, like 5 minutes, then we make a decision. Then we thrombolize them. So, and that's what we are. And once that is done, so then still it doesn't end there. The neurologist on our behalf, so we do not make multiple phone calls. Now he can leave me and go and say, oh, that's fine, it's done, my job is over. No. So telestroke network takes it with one more step further. If they need, obviously, then he will say, oh, it's done. Now he needs a bed in a stroke unit. So we do not have any stroke unit in our hospital based in Boga. So he will talk to the neurologist on call in Boga and explain them what exactly was that. So they will discuss the case and give them clinical handover. So I don't have to make the phone call.
Okay.
So scenario two, if they find that the patient needs a clot retrieval, so there is a sort of blockage there, then their service is not available in Griffith. Their service is available in Canberra, which is 4 hours from us.
All right.
So then the same stroke neurologist, telestroke neurologist, will arrange a transfer to that hospital.
Okay.
So basically, he will discuss with them on the case. So he will say they have accepted. So for example, in Canberra, spoken to them, this man, urgent clot retrieval. So then he will discuss with them. And then Australia has very centralized retrieval care system. So if I have to make a phone call, normally they do it. But even from my side, in the meantime, once we know the destination, I've got a single number to call. So they will basically bring everyone together in a teleconference, like a neurologist from there, or ICU person, or aeroretrieval medicine is a branch itself here. So they bring them together, and then we can give them clinical handover, and they can shift the patients. The patient will fly to Canberra or the nearest destination in some other hospitals, other areas. It can be
Correct.
some other place. So that's how the journey is.
All right. So when let's say we have to transfer the patient to, let's say, to a tertiary facility, right, for endovascular clot retrieval.
Yeah.
So usually that everything happens within the telestroke network itself, telestroke platform itself, or there are manual calls that are supposed to be made. Yeah.
So those calls are made by, this I'm saying, so those calls are made by actually telestroke
Telestroke.
network people,
Mhm.
So the neurologist who is taking the telestroke phone call from me will arrange the consultation himself. So he will basically discuss that
Okay.
patient with the other neurologist for clot retrieval in the tertiary
Right.
hospital where the facilities available. So they won't ask us to say, "Oh, that's fine. It's not for thrombolysis." I'm going, no, it doesn't work like that. They basically take care of complete care of the stroke patient, regardless of whatever sort of we find on the scan and angiogram and perfusion scan. So
Right.
only exception is I said that if the hemorrhagic stroke, big one, or there's tumor there, and then we can exit that pathway. But
Correct. Correct.
otherwise, for clot retrieval, they arrange it. So only thing can be, or they can say, oh, that's fine. So I have discussed with, say, for example, somebody XYZ in Canberra, and he's accepted the care, and then okay, and in that case, we have a basically functioning retrieval system in Australia. So the patient flow network, basically, my nurses can put that patient on a central, for New South Wales especially, on a central network, saying the urgency, and then ambulance will pick up that. So they know what. So air ambulance, they're all part of the whole network, so whole
Right.
system. So they will pick up what is urgent. And even if I have to make a phone call, I said that, so I can make a phone call myself. It doesn't take too
Right.
long. It's not our waiting time. So within 2 minutes, somebody will answer, and then I can tell them I've got a 70-year-old man who needs clot retrieval, has been accepted by this person in this hospital, and they will say, okay, so they will take essential information from me, patient details, your observations, and what has been done so far, and what the plan is, and then they will say, we'll get back to you. And within a couple of minutes, they basically call us back that this is ETA now, like we are arriving at this point of time, and if they have any specific requirements, they will tell you 1, 2, 3, 4, because
Okay.
that part is very very simple, because that is well rehearsed, well sort of established pathway, because not only stroke, a lot of people, so we ship out a lot of multi-trauma to big hospitals. So we ship up a lot of things uh, from some other places as well. So a lot of people, so that part is absolutely sorted in this country. Even on the roadside, if there's massive accident in the middle of nowhere, the ambulance crew can activate aerial retrieval. They can land there directly with their
Okay.
gear. They can stabilize people, and they even don't even take to near hospital. They can fly out directly.
Right.
So it's a well-established system which works very well. um, and it makes me wonder sometimes. I mean, I wish we could have that, something like that in our country, but probably it's a bit difficult. It's in the future, yes, some stage.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very big. It's big. Like we have our own constraints, but it's very. Australia is sheer, as I said, that the geographical. New South Wales is, I think, again a very big state. Queensland is even more bigger.
Right.
So it's gonna be it's the same challenge all of us face in Australia. So geographical isolation, lack of
Correct.
resources. So this is where telestroke pitches in effectively.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. In India, I think the problem also is that population density, right? I mean, even
Yeah,
if,
it's very.
yeah, even we have the resources, still the problem will be that, having those number of beds and, specialists available all the
Exactly,
time.
exactly, exactly,
And
exactly.
Australia also sort of, has similar problems just because of the geography itself, right? Even though the population is not there, the population is so, sparsely populated across that huge geography that, it, even though no number of resources will, eventually satisfy that, right? I mean,
Yeah, exactly,
that's
exactly. It's
another
different,
problem.
exactly, different sort of levels, but different kind of problems, but essentially
Right.
outcome is same essentially. Yeah. So that's where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
So they are working on the timing. So what to improve and how to improve.
Mm-hmm.
So then that all brings in some other constraints of practically working. Like that's all on the paper. So sometimes it can work very well. Sometimes it can fail. So we had some issues. I said that. So for example, after hour, they do not have
Right.
24-hour scanning in small hospitals.
Okay.
Person who is on call can take 10-15 minutes. By the time they fire up the machine, by the time you're ready to take the patient there, so you already wasted half an hour. By the
Correct.
time you bring the patient back, you transfer them, onto the bed, and you speak to the family and take a consent, you have already wasted 40 minutes,
Right.
40 minutes or 50 minutes or 1 hour.
Right.
So,
Right.
and sometimes the ambulance doesn't tell us anything, so they just rock up on the doorstep.
Okay.
Yeah. So then you have to start and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's I think that the average time we were talking last time in the meeting is, I think, about 62 minutes. Last time when I was involved, we beat the national time by 10 minutes. So we could, for door to needle time was around 51 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So, which was okay. So it took us, a couple of minutes, as I said, that to speak to the family, take consent, explain them. So this is how it is.
So from that perspective, we started developing our algorithm, AI algorithm for non-contrast CT, and then we got FDA CE approval for it as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have our FDA approval for ICH, for midline shift, mass effect, and cranial fractures, right? And this was the first time that FDA had given any AI company that 4-in-1 FDA in one go. So that was one of the good achievements that we had, right? And then parallel, we realized that this was just a small portion, right? Getting the AI interpretation to get those findings, right? We realized that there is a lot of activities that happen pre-scan and post-scan as well, right? And they are very important to have this
Right.
information in one place, right? Because lack of information is very, very crucial is a big problem in stroke care, right? And in a country like India, a lot of things happen on paper or just verbally, that
I
those
know.
informations get missed, right? I mean, you have worked in India, so of course you must be
Mm.
knowing all of that, right? You have faced that in the ground itself. So what we have done is that we started with pre-hospital assessment itself. So as soon as the patient is picked up in the ambulance, you can start there. You can start entering down, registering the patient, and entering down their
Done. Mm.
clinical history as well, because in case of stroke, there's a
Okay.
1/3
Right.
chance that it's a recurrence of stroke, right? So you can note down their last known well time, their wake up time if the person has woke up with stroke, and then their SpO2, blood sugar, and all those things, right? And along with that, the attending ER nurse can also put down their comments around it, that person is
Mm.
responding to fast or not, right? And all those things. You can do their NIHS assessment, and then you can also initiate a code stroke, right? So that all the people who are part of the stroke care in that particular hospital will get notified on their mobile phones that a suspected stroke patient is coming
Coming.
to the hospital, right?
Mm.
And then once the patient has arrived at the hospital, the information that has been captured is available to the, let's say, neurologist, to the ER physician, and let's say stroke nurse, and all those people, right, who are part, let's say radiologists as well. Now, when the scan is taken, of course, the AI algorithm is able to detect, give its interpretation pretty fast. So within a minute, you get an interpretation that this person might be having, let's say, an intracranial hemorrhage, right? So accordingly,
Mm.
then again, another notification will go to all these folks. Along with that, they can also open their DICOM images on their phone itself. I mean, it's platform agnostic, so you can open it on
Mm.
your laptop, you can open it on your phone,
Anywhere.
so that yeah, I don't have to go back to the PAX workstation, right? We have developed iOS, Android apps so that the people who need to have the access to scan. I mean, that can of course be defined, right? Who all can have that access, and then they can access all that clinical data, and then you get AI interpretation and all those things. You can also get a pre-populated report if you want to. We can also quantify the amount of bleed as well, so that
Blood.
yeah, so that gets important in terms of planning your next steps of treatment. Now currently we are working on CT perfusion models, probably, which will be ready in a month. It will be available on all the platforms itself. CT angiogram is also something we are working, because some of the infarcts are not that visible in non-contrast CT, so you have to go with CT angiogram.
Exactly. That's right.
Similarly, yeah, for clot retrieval, CT perfusion is important to find the exact location of thrombus, right? So from that perspective, this is what we have done till now. And what we aim to do is eventually that sort of create a stroke registry, where you can also start noting down how the treatment has been done to the patient, and in a longer, and probably maybe we can start giving some sort of suggestions to, let's say, if a person has come with these particular symptoms, this is their scan. So these are the possible that steps of treatment that can be taken in a low resource setting, right? So this particular app can also be used in a telestroke network, right? Because again, the hub and spoke model can be activated, right? As soon as a person is picked up in a smaller hospital, then the hub site, the larger tertiary site, can get a notified, and they can communicate with the spoke hospital on that platform itself. Can share images, can share comments, and get consultation as well.
Is it
So just
special?
want
Is it regarding private hospitals or is it gonna involve public system as well?
So this is something, honestly, private hospitals, we have not like really reached out to a lot of large hospitals which have like multiple sites, right? But yeah, this is something that we've been working with NHS in UK. So recently we have won NHSX AI award. So after which we are implementing our solution in 5 sites there.
Okay.
And yeah, so these guys will be running the study for another 1.5 year to see how it's actually making an impact in from the existing workflows to new workflows, whether we are able to reduce the turnaround time, or a door to needle time, and a door to, let's say, growing puncture time, and all those things, if there is an improvement that we are able to see. So all these metrics, and anyway, because it's a digital platform, you're able to get these reports, these analytics pretty easily, right? Because the data is at one place. So just wanted to get your inputs if you see that there is a merit to this, and things that can be added here, or in general from the telemedicine perspective, right? What all things that you would want to have in future that will make an impact.
Yeah. So I said that, so artificial intelligence radiology, I do not know how long Australia will take to improve, approve that thing. So basically, the
Mhm.
very much takes a lot of time. It's going to go through a lot of political things, a lot of rigorous sort of guidelines and things to get something like this approved.
Mhm.
Yes, I would like to see that sort of, as you said, there's some kind of platform where the ambulance, once identified, they can send, for example, like on my phone, can get a call, radiology,
Mhm.
radiographer can call, can get notification after hours, especially
Right.
with working hours, a different story.
Yeah.
And essentially, you can have some idea. Then you can basically reduce the time by 5 to 10 minutes, or the ambulance people can do that ASAP tool. They can use. They can have
Correct.
that bed within their own. Like they have got, it's an unfortunate part because in Australia, everybody's got, they use different systems. Sometimes they have a different system of entering notes. It's not
Mhm.
the same as, so you can
Okay.
put a single digital platform for everyone to assess and see and enter notes. If ambulance, paramedic, they're nurses as well. So some of them are nurses and they're qualified people and they are the skilled people. So
Mhm.
they can do that assessment there and then, and they can basically initiate stroke call even before. It's more important in the bigger cities because
Right.
in my hospital is still, it's okay, small place, 5 minutes you are in the hospital.
Right.
For example, Melbourne or Sydney, where you get stuck in the traffic
Right.
for
Right.
45 minutes, or you're away like outskirts, and by the time ambulance reaches you, you come here to me. Always,
Mhm.
1 hour, so you can
Right.
utilize the times, and in the meantime,
Mhm.
they can initiate that call by themselves,
Right.
and at least like 10-15 minutes before arrival, they can start the conversation with the neurologist, and
Mhm.
by the time they reach us, everything is already ready. So
Right.
the radiology team is there. All we do is take them straight to the scan and then go from there.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I think that is one of the problems that, I mean, it's a uniform problem across the globe, right? Having different systems that are not talking to each other, right?
No,
So they
exactly.
are working in silos. So one particular set of people will be using one particular app because they are comfortable with that, right? And that particular app is not communicating with the other one automatically. So then they have to communicate the information in some other matter, and then they have to enter that particular information in new system, and then sometimes the information can get lost, or there can be delays because of that, right? So that's what we are also trying to do, so that there can be one app from the ambulance to the, till now we have covered the assessment part, right? That where you are able to assess whether you have to thrombolize the patient, or you have to go for EVT, or you have to refer to them for a tertiary center for, let's say, neurosurgery if it's a hemorrhage, like hemorrhagic stroke, right? So from that perspective, that's what we are trying to do. We are in their journey right now, and yeah, I would definitely want to keep in touch with you to get your feedback as well. I mean,
Sure. And if
I
you,
can give you a demo of the platform as well, so that you can give your feedback, and
sure,
probably,
sure.
yeah, we can keep
Exactly.
discussing around that.
For
Uh,
sure.
Let me see if I have to cover
I
anything
think that's the
else.
future. That's the future. At the end of the day, this is the
Mm-hmm.
future. Like maybe in 10, 20 minutes time. So everything is gonna, you never know, you're gonna go to hospital, you're greeted by a robot and they can do
Right,
everything.
right.
Exactly.
Right, right. I mean, for clot retrieval itself, right? It is, I mean, the robotics is getting involved there, right? So that there is more precise neurosurgery that you can perform. Right now, it's
Hmm.
in
No, no,
it's
I'm opposed to that. So the,
right, right, right. And right now, it's in sort of in a working with, I mean, co-working with the neurologist, neurosurgeon, right? But yeah, at some point of time, it is possible that human can just give the instructions that this is what needs to be done, and there's a scan already available to you, right? So
exactly.
possibly that can be automated altogether, and can remove that human component, human error component, right?
Yeah, you never know. You can
That's
have
yeah,
ambulances already fitted with small scanners. The technology advanced in 20 years' time, but a tiny scan fitted in the ambulance itself, and
yeah,
boom,
yeah.
you go there. The transplant,
Mm-hmm.
you've done everything, you're ready. Yeah,
Right,
that.
right, right. So yeah, so from if you see the story from Melbourne itself, right? So they have this mobile stroke unit, right? What they have done is that they have a small CT scanner installed within the ambulance itself,
Mm-hmm.
and so it runs around Melbourne, 20 kilometers radius area around Melbourne, okay. And if they get a call on, there is a suspected stroke patient, whenever they get a call on emergency number, so what
Mm-hmm.
happens is that if they feel that it can be a stroke patient, then both the ambulances go, the normal ambulance and the stroke ambulance, the MSU, they call it, mobile stroke unit.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them go there, and then they assess whether it's a stroke patient or not. If it's not a stroke patient, then the regular ambulance take the patient. If it's a stroke patient, it's taken in the MSU, and they
Mm-hmm.
can do their NCCT. They can also do, I believe, CT angiogram within the ambulance itself. So if they're
Mm-hmm.
able to assess that it's a, let's say, ischemic stroke, it's a clot. And if they have reached within the window, they can communicate with the neurologist. There's a stroke nurse already available in the ER itself, in the ambulance, and they can thrombolyze the patient within the ambulance
Time.
itself. Yeah, so they are
Mm-hmm.
able to at times they're able to thrombolyze the patient within 1 hour of onset of the stroke. So from that perspective, so this was a study that study that
Yeah.
they had started sorry,
Mm-hmm.
go ahead.
No, no, sorry, I'm listening. Yeah.
Yeah. So study started in, I think, 2018 or 19 in Melbourne. I think they're planning one such unit for NSW as well. So I have gone through some news. So I think there is a $10 million funding for that MSU to be tested for New South Wales as well. This particular idea actually came from Berlin. So Berlin started this mobile stroke unit in 2010, I believe. So they have 3 mobile stroke units. But yeah, the problem with it is that still for a region like Australia, this will still be able to cover 20, 30 kilometer radius, right? So
Exactly.
the running cost for a small, less dense population will be too high to actually use it in a larger scale, right? So that is the
Exactly.
problem. But yeah, there's another thing with the Royal Flying Doctors itself. They are planning to put a CT scanner on the on the helicopter.
Plane on the
Yeah,
helicopter.
helicopter itself, and they can do
That's why I
that.
said that as the technology
Yeah.
advances, these scanner machines are small and they can fit it in all these mobile units.
Right.
There's a future of medicine, like in future.
Correct.
But as you said, that it's very hard to justify the cost. For
Right.
example, I said that in Melbourne, it will make sense because you can waste time in traffic 45 minutes, 1 hour,
Right.
and have lost that window.
Mm-hmm.
But in small places like this, it's probably still it's okay for us to function the way we are now.
Correct.
But
Correct.
yes, in the future, as you said, that maybe ambulance will get equipped with a lot of technology
Mm-hmm.
where you can diagnose right even before they come to hospital. You've got some major issues sorted out already. So
Right.
that
Right.
time can be like reduced. So no need to go for CT angiogram and fusion
Mm-hmm.
scan, and you have your answer by the time you reach emergency department.
Right.
Either thrombolized and they go to stroke unit straight away.
Right.
Come to us with an answer. At the end of the day, if you can utilize technology to help people, and everybody doesn't need to see a specialist, or you
Right.
don't have to have
Right.
you don't have to have all those people all the time there.
Correct.
Somebody
Correct.
can make some decision remotely. Now it's possible.
Yeah, yeah.
So
See, the other thing is in terms of stroke, also, if you see, right, close to 80% strokes are ischemic, right? So if you are able to get people to the hospital in that amount of time, there's a possibility that, if not 80%, there's a possibility like 50% of patient can be treated, right, and can recover fully if they are
exactly,
there in the so. And you don't really need neurologist on the site to actually do that, right? I mean, the
exactly, exactly.
ER physician can do that. They are, I mean, well trained in, like you are, right? ER medicine, right? Emergency medicine. You can treat them. You can thrombolize them if it's a complicated situation. Anyway, I mean, they have to follow the regular, I mean, workflow, right? So from that perspective, a lot more people can, get this treatment if we
Success.
use digital platforms, right?
That's right.